Hi guys, welcome back to a quick card pull. This is being filmed on Sunday, July 26, 2026. So 2626 portal. Today we're pulling from the Golden Folio Tarot cards. Let me tell you, this is the third time I'm filming this. So if you remember going back to the post that I did last week, in the description, if you actually read the description, which I feel like is important because it's just like, yes, I do repost people's, but I always give them their flowers. But it's like I put my perspective on it, you know what I mean? Where how it resonates with me. This is why I'm sharing it. One of the things they were talking about is regaining control of your life, retaking both reins. I feel like you have the rein in your left hand, the right hand. I feel like this is where someone is pulling on the rein to manipulate, trying to move you off your path. So they're trying to make you manipulate you to do what they want to do, right? They're in their situations like, well, if I make them feel this way, or if I do this, I know how they're going to react, and then it'll work in my favor. And it's just like, no, we're not doing that. You know what I mean? This is where Spirit is just like, yeah, it's scary, but this is why this purge happened. And Spirit is like, you know what I mean? Even though sometimes things don't make sense at the moment, it's like, this is where we were getting a lot of the high priestess, higher levels of thinking, they're saying lies. So they were talking about people's narrative of you as well from the past. And it's like, you know what? I couldn't care less. You're not in my world. You don't affect my life. You don't affect my peace. Like, off with you. You know what I mean? If that's the narrative you have to spew, is the word they're using, then live that narrative. Because you know what? I'm just going to keep living my best life. But this is where they were showing, and I'm not kidding you, and I'm not trying to, do not frickin' do this, because like a vehicle is a frickin' weapon. It is a privilege, not a right. Where they're jerking the wheel. Someone's driving and they're jerking the wheel to the right, and it's like, that's freaking dangerous. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're putting everybody's life at risk. You know what I mean? So be careful of that. They're saying speed bumps. Just like we were talking about, changing our perspective, so higher levels of wisdom. But when these kind of things happen, one thing that's, higher self or spirit was saying was like, you remember last time we went through this and we said everything was going to be fine, and you stress yourself out, not to the point where I give myself panic attacks anymore, thank God, but to the point where it's just like, you know what I mean? And Spirit was like, it's going to be fine. And it was, you know what I mean? And that's what I kept telling myself. Everything's going to be fine. You know what I mean? It's just like shadow thought. It's going to take time. It's not going to happen in a day. You know what I mean? This is a muscle you have to constantly work, where it's just like, for the foreseeable future, with all the information that we have, let's just be in the moment. Is it perfect? No. But at the same time, it's just like, let it change your perspective. Like Anastasia said, lessons have been learned. Old narratives, patterns, energies that maybe this is from childhood or situations you've been in, and it's just like, those narratives have no longer have an effect on you, no longer have a hold on you, because that was that person and this is you. You had no, you know what I mean? Like, even if with myself where it's affected me, it's like, look from that time period, and it's like, you know what I mean? Sure-footed like a deer. And that's where I feel like Spirit is like, you need to really let that resonate with you. Do your meditations. The one that I do with Sound Healer Cody, the anxiety one, it's not very long. It seems like a longer video because he does stop and he starts talking, because I believe it was on a live that he was doing it, because they were giving him his flowers and stuff like that. But it's just like, you know what I mean? It really resonated, where it's just like, you know what? I go through these times where it's high, especially with retrograde happening and situations. So I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to ground myself every day, even if it's twice a day. Sometimes it's not even twice a day. You know what I mean? But it's just like a good time just sit there and just be like, mind, shut the F up. You know what I mean? I'm just going to sit there and just be in ground yourself in that moment. If you're able to take off your shoes and ground yourself in that moment. You know what I mean? And that's where Spirit is just like, it's a effed up situation, but to me, that is more important than anything else going on. So I feel like that's where Spirit is just like, that's where you need to put your energies. A lot of angel numbers being very potent right now. So going back to the Chariot energy, it's like you're moving forward. This is all about for a moment. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's an emotional situation. You know what I mean? It's just like, you know, what can you do? You know what I mean? You can only do the best that you can. That's all you can do at the end of the day. You know, sometimes things just come out of the blue and that's the way you have to deal with it. You know, and it's just like with the other situation, just picking at it. That's all I can do. You know what I mean? When it's ready, it's ready. You know what I mean? If there's nothing more we can do. They're saying resources. So it's just like, you know what I mean? Doing the best you can. Grounding yourself, but choosing yourself first. You are just as important as anyone else. A lot of people like to be like, oh, you're selfish, you're this, you're that, by putting yourself first. There's nothing wrong with putting yourself first. You know what I mean? It's just like a lot of people depend on you, and it's just like you got to make sure your well-being is good too. You know what I mean? It's like you pour into other people's cups. So that's where I feel like Spirit is just like, be mindful of that. You know what I mean? Keep moving forward. You know what I mean? Things will get better. Things will get lighter. You know what I mean? This is where I feel like the 2626 portal, as it's being called in here. If you have the time, do it. Like literally on the timer. It's, you know, the date, the year, and the time is 26. So if you're able to do it, even if you have to sit there like in your mind and do it, you know what I mean? But it's just, I feel like like Amber was saying, like that, a visual aesthetic. So higher levels of hearing, of getting channel messages. So like I said, like, you know, certain songs, you know what I mean? I feel like angel numbers. I feel like with Amber too, like, you know what I mean? What are the odds that I, like, because sometimes she'll go on and it's like, this has, you know what I mean? Like, I'll listen to it, like, you know, to support her and stuff like that, but it's just like, this doesn't resonate with me. And I'm just like, that's fine. Even with myself, messages that I tell you, they're just like, oh, none of this resonates. That's okay. It wasn't meant for you to resonate with you. You know what I mean? But I feel like, you know, when they're talking about these emotional situations, I feel like that's what they're saying. They're pulling you out of it. You know, this is the time to listen. This is why, like, time to tap in, time to hone in. You know what I mean? They're telling you that because it's just like, you know, it does, you know, especially in this economy, it's just like, you know, the narrative is doom and gloom, doom and gloom. And you're doing the best you can to keep yourself above water. So, you know, again, emotions. But this is where they're saying we need to change that. Or when situations like, I've seen it before, but it's just like, even when things are getting a little disruptive, chaotic, I don't feel like it's chaotic. I feel like it's disruptive. And that's the thing. We got to watch how we word things. It's like when things are disruptive, it's like we still got to learn to find, you know, like when I wake up with a migraine. Even though I woke up with a migraine or I woke up from a bad dream, you know, with no harm to none, including myself, it's just like, you know, still being like, you know what, I'm still going to make the most out of this day. I'm still going to push forward. And Mama Cookie and Lacey, I love Lacey. She's like, her and her family are just, it's like I'm scrolling on there. That's all I want to watch. But you don't want it so much in your For You page that it's just like, okay, you know what I mean? But, I love their adventures. I love their family. Good family. There's a rebirth happening around all of us. Like, Aya Wisdom was talking about this. If you follow them on TikTok, you know, our Energy 79.79, that's their backup account, where they're talking about, you know, we had to go through this purge. So this was 2 weeks before Mercury retrograde, Pluto retrograde. They're showing like a T. So this is more Deborah Silverman's realm than mine. But it's just, but like I said, I'm willing to learn. It's just like this big purge happened, and a lot of us went through these emotions, and then it came out of it. It was exhausting. Like, no word of a lie. And they were like, everybody's talking about the golden era, this brand new era. And it's like, we have to purge a lot of things. And this is where it's like, you know, it's devastating because there's like, this is like a loss in some ways where it's just like, these people are no part of your life. And I feel like where some people, you know what I mean? It's just like, you know, the language has been there because they're really going back to like, you know, 9 years ago, the language that has been said, the words that have been said. And it's just like, you know what I mean? Only time I'm seen as useful to you is when you need to manipulate me to benefit you. And it's like, I'm not doing that. You know, my life is very full and a little bit disruptive right now, but it's just like, we'll get through it. This too shall pass. And that's what they're saying. After a chaotic time, things will, you know what I mean? That's why I'm like, when that peace comes in, embrace that peace. When that calmness comes in, embrace it. Don't try to fill it with things, because that is you resting and recuperating and getting the things done that you need to get done so you can keep moving forward. You know what I mean? So when the next thing comes by, and it's like always, it's only time you should go in the past is to learn from situations. So with this, they're like, remember last time and you freaked out and everything was fine? It's going to be fine. So this is a lesson I need to learn. But it's like, I don't see myself the way that others see me, but it's just like spirit sees me that way, so it must be true. Or, you know what I mean? It's just like, keep pushing forward. Keep doing what you're doing, because, you know what I mean? I feel like that's what they're saying to you. Keep pushing forward. Yeah, disruptions will come around. You know what I mean? And that's because they want, like they were saying, grabbing in the wheel and they're trying to jerk you to the right. And it's just like, no. You know what I mean? It's just like, you know what you're doing. Both hands are on the steering wheel and you're, you know what I mean, correcting the situation. That's someone you don't want in your life. You're purposely trying to put me in danger. That's someone you don't want in your life. And this is, so kind of like with Lacey's family, and I did talk to like my sister about this, but it's just like, you know what I mean? Seeing how the family is, and I'm like, this is what, you know what I mean, X, Y, and Z. But it's not like so much like, oh, I'm living in the past or anything like that. But it's just, you know what I mean? It's just sometimes, especially when you are in love with someone and it was an untimely passing. You know what I mean? It's just like, you know, you kind of can't help but, you know, my son even does this. He's like, I wonder how our life would be. And I'm like, I do too. Not all the time. You know what I mean? Because I'm just like, that's not healthy. You know what I mean? Like, but I do kind of like the song Home with the Dixie Chicks, or the Chicks, my apologies. I gotta watch their songs because it really hits home. And that song Home, where it's just like, you know, walking in this home where this is where, you know, the life that could have been. You know what I mean? But nothing you can do about it. It's just like, you know, concentrate on what you have going for you. You've already crossed this bridge. You're already here for a lot of you. Some of you, you're just starting to cross that bridge where it's just like, you know, it's okay to move forward. It's okay to live life. That survivor's guilt. Even if the person, hopefully by the grace of God, has not passed away, because, you know what I mean? They're saying detachment. It's just like, you know, you got to be kind to yourself. You got to sit there and realize, like, you know, you're allowed to be happy. You know what I mean? You got to give yourself permission. And I feel like that's a lot of the things. It's just like, what happened before does not dictate now. Because you've worked so hard to get where you are. That's all that matters. Wheel of Fortune, because things are moving forward. This is why they're telling you. You know what I mean? They're like, literally, the last card was like, you know, rebirth. Where they're just saying, things are moving forward. You know, sometimes things may feel this way. But it's just like, you know, we got to be like, okay, there was a reason why that came up, and keep moving forward. That's all we can do. You know, there's sometimes that's so crazy. I'm like looking up. I could feel like my eyebrow ring is there, but unfortunately the ball broke off on the bottom. I had a plastic one, so it closed up again, but it feels like it's like a phantom eyebrow ring. But this is where they're saying things are moving forward, and that's what you got to concentrate on. You know, it may feel like this is forever, whatever you're going through, but you got to remember this is just a blip. You know what I mean? This is just the narrative right now. That doesn't mean it's going to last forever. I know, and again, I know sometimes it does feel that way. Maybe there's something that you've gone through for a couple weeks. Maybe this is actually a literal passing, and it's just like, yeah, because the energy is so heavy and they meant a lot to you, clearly, or else you wouldn't feel this way. You know what I mean? And it's just like, I always tell the boys, like, just be thankful for the time we did have with them. You know, that's all we can do. You know, we can either, you know, sabotage ourselves and live in that energy, and, you know, it's not good. You know what I mean? Because it's not productive. You know, you have every right to miss people, but at the same time, it's just like, you gotta, you know, you have every right to put one foot in front of the other. So we literally got 444. So this is what I'm saying. It's like you're kind of looking at your life right now, and then something comes out of the blue and changes the narrative. And that's why I was like, you know what? Don't sit there and think that this is forever, because it's not. And don't think that don't allow people to manipulate you, because your situation looks like this right now and it's disruptive. Don't feel like that this is forever. It's like you're making the necessary changes, and that's what's going to really change everything. Like, even with like Spirit was like, if you did this, this would be a lot different. And I'm like, no, you're right. You know what I mean? So if we need to, like they said, resources, but at the same time, you know what I mean? It's just be open, thank you, universe, for spoiling me. We're always open to you spoiling me. Like, literally last week, like, that's what ticks me off so much. It's like, literally, it's just like one, two, like, so many things. Like, you know what I mean? I was writing them all down, and I'm just like thinking of all the things, and I'm like, wow, like, you know what I mean? Like, this is so amazing. You know what I mean? And then this happened. I'm like, oh. But that's what I'm saying. It's just like, pick yourself back up and do it all over again. For once. And this is like concentrating on celebration. So my sister's birthday is on Wednesday. So that's the thing. It's like, instead of concentrating on the negative, it's like concentrate on the celebrations, concentrate on the victories, concentrate on the positive things. You know what I mean? And I know, like, sometimes it's hard to concentrate on that. Like, literally, when Shane passed away, like, I would just be in my head, and I'm like, I would be like, I'm thankful. Anytime it started, I would be like, I'm thankful for the roof over our heads, clothes on our back, food on our table, we're safe. You know what I mean? 1616, which is 7. 7, 7, which is 14, which changes to 5, which is change. Numerology. Started just running numbers in your head. But, you know what I mean? It's just like literally going on vacation, coming home from vacation, celebrations like my sister's birthday. Like, I don't know how this week's going to turn out, but you know what I mean? It's just like putting one foot in front of the other. It's just, I'm just like, I even tell my kids that just live it for today. Don't worry about next week. Don't worry about next year. Don't worry about 2 years from now, 500 years from now. Live in the moment. You know what I mean? Like, I know, like, they're about to start school again. So it's just like, I feel like it's just live for those moments that we can just forget about everything, turn off our brain, and be happy. You know what I mean? It's just live for those moments. Keep those close to your heart. You know what I mean? It's just, I feel like everybody's just going through some things, but you know what I mean? What it is right now is not going to always be the narrative. So some grounding energies are coming in 3 weeks' time. And this is what I was talking about. Just because it looks like, this narrative of, that 5 of Cups energy, you know what I mean? Like, because even this 8 of Cup energy where it's like, I'm choosing to move forward, you know what I mean? Like, they're walking with a walking stick, maybe like a sign for hiking. But I also feel like, having this strength to move forward. Because you kind of lean on a stick, right? Like, as you put your body weight on it to help you push forward. They're showing, if you watch The Walking Dead, where Daryl ends up in the ditch. And he has, he tries to climb up, and he's using everything he can. So, you know what I mean? It's like dig deep, and this is where sometimes we have to dig deep in ourselves to push forward. And where they're showing that 2 of Cups, it's like, sometimes, like they said, when certain situations happen, it feels like an earthquake, and then you start to rebuild, and then there's aftershocks. And that's why I love, like, the 3 of Pentacles coming out here, because it's just like, hey, listen, in 3 weeks' time, you'll forget that this even happened. You know what I mean? So it's just like, it happened, where, because it affects another situation, I wouldn't even care if it didn't. Like, if that other situation wasn't there, I wouldn't have cared. You know what I mean? But it's, it has to be done. And that's the grounding energy of the situation. So this is what they're saying. Just because it looks like this, in 3 weeks' time, it could look like something's totally different. So, you know what I mean? I feel like this is where they're, like, giving you that, like, hope. Like, I love the lighting all around him, but it's just like, this could be information. This could be grounding. This could, like, changing all of that, changing the narrative. You know what I mean? And that's where it's just like, don't allow this to, for the next 3 weeks, take over, everything. 1919. So, like, they're showing, like, the world card. Like, this is, like, this part is coming to an end. I feel like this is Spirit's positive confirmation of, like, yeah, you feel like, you're going through it. They're circling the head, so you're in your head. And they're like, yeah, we know you're going through it, but, like, the positive thing here is that you're safe. And I always say that when people are, going through shadow thoughts, it's like, you are safe. That's the number one thing you got to tell yourself. You are safe. Number 2, let's talk about what's going on. What is making you feel that way? What is, kind of igniting that in you? You know what I mean? And let's try and fix it. What are things that we can invoke? What are things that we can bring in to help change that narrative? You know what I mean? And sometimes just talking helps, because it's like you finally got it off your chest. But I feel like this is spirit saying, like, just because it looks like this doesn't mean it's, you know what I mean, a different situation. So just be kind to yourself right now. We have the moon card. So literally the full moon is on the 29th. So this is cycling till August 9th, I believe, is the next cycle of the moon. So fully from full moon to new moon. And this is where it's like calling back in your tribe, but regrounding yourself. Like that was literally, with the Pentacle card there, where it's like grounding yourself, keep yourself grounded in this time. And that's where it's like higher self is like, with the situation, this disruption, it's like, but it affects this. So, even Amber was like, this will bring in this. So, you know what I mean? As tedious as it is, you know what I mean? It's just nothing you can do about it. But bringing it back in balance, that leads to the sun. Like, you know what I mean? This very much feels like temperance, where it's like it leads to the sun. But calling back in our tribe, you know what I mean? Recalibrating, maybe you haven't talked to people in a while. It's been busy. It's summer, right? So regrouping could be like a mom group. So like I said, like kids going back to school or going to college, like, there's still a mom group there and everything. So we can all keep an eye on each other and keep informed. That is actually a hindrance in some cases, but you know what I mean? It's just like, I feel like just be in the moment and just be like, you know what? It is, with my situation, what we're doing is the right thing to do. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it kind of delayed some things, but who knows? You know what I mean? Because sometimes, like they were showing a lot last week, being patient as, Queen of Swords, High Priestess. They keep showing me High Priestess in my mind's eye. So it's like, the truth, the information that you're supposed to know is going to come out. I feel like you're going to get some sort of paperwork. I don't know. I feel like coming in the mail, because they keep on showing the front porch. So it's like something's coming in the mail. When I saw this, I knew everything was going to turn out okay. You know what I mean? And I feel like this is where their spirit is like, you know what I mean? You're determined. You know what I mean? You got to change your perspective on this. And this is why they're encouraging to keep moving forward, because they're saying unconditional love. You know what I mean? Don't concentrate on this energy. Like, it's coming up for a reason. Maybe you have to purge some feelings, because everyone's situation is going to be different. And they're saying, like, unconditional love. Allow that to be invoked into your life. Allow that to come easily into your life. You know what I mean? Just because things look like this today does not mean it's going to look like that tomorrow. And like they said, in 3 weeks' time, you're going to be like, what the hell? Because we go through these cycles, and it's just like, it's teaching you. Like, even Spirit comes in. It's like, don't worry. Not like so much condescending, like, what are you worrying about? But it's so much where it's just like, we got you. We got you, babe. Like, I know it doesn't look good, but it's good. Like, it's fine. You know what I mean? And like I said, with ourselves, it's just like, this is important because it affects this. And I don't want it to affect that anymore. I'm trying to fix that situation as much as I can. And you know what I mean? That's all we can do, is try to fix that situation. Put all our love and energy and prayers into it. And for me, it's just like, yeah, it sucks, but you know what I mean? In some circumstances, it's a no-brainer. So this is what you have to remember. When you're going through this, that Spirit has your back. They're saying 3 weeks' time. We kept getting the 8 of Wands card for how long? You know what I mean? Where it's just like something's coming in. Cupid's arrow, or this could be actually someone coming into your life that, alleviates the situation. Who knows what this is going to be? You know what I mean? They did say, like, it's up to you if you allow it in. Because it could be like a family member from a past. But, you know what I mean? Just take care of yourself. Take care of your surroundings, your loved ones. Embrace that 4 of Wands energy. Celebrations, going on vacation, leaving for vacation. You know what I mean? But for us, celebrations is and I'm like, bring in the birthday luck. You know what I mean? It's like, shower us with the birthday luck. And remember that. What did Spirit say? That you're going to get showered so much, it's like it's raining and you're happy and you're showering in it. So, you know what I mean? Just because it all happened, with like last week, it's just like, don't think that that's the end of it. It's not. They're constantly showering you. You're open to being spoiled, let them continue spoiling you. So I hope you guys enjoyed this quick card pull. If you have the time, do the 2626 portal. May the universe bless you good.